Oh, there we go. Awesome. Well, Mr. Prager, thank you so much for joining us. You're here with the Club Z teens around the room here. Can everyone say hi? Got some over here as well. It is a huge honor to have you here with us. We did a short introduction, and we watched your Middle East video that you made. And some teens have some questions, or do you want to start off by saying anything?
No, I met many of you at my talk, right, at the debate. Is that right?
Yes.
So, hey again. So since you heard me at the debate, since we met, and since you saw the video, why don't you guys just open up with anything you want? Truly anything.
Ron, do you want to go first?
Let me make it a little louder. 1 second. I don't understand. Yeah, it's louder.
Is that full screen?
Can you? Just 1 second. I'm looking if Skype has if Skype has its own. I don't know why it's not louder.
Come over here.
Guys, just speak up.
Can you? You can.
We'll speak a little bit louder. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I hear you clear, but it's not. You're just not loud. I don't know why. Okay, it's okay. Go ahead.
Ron, come up. Come up closer.
So, my name is Ron.
Yeah, you gotta come close to the mic though. I can't make it any louder.
All right. So, my name's Ron, and I met you just real quick. I met you at the debate, and when I told everyone in my Young Republicans Club, they got jealous. So, thank you for that.
Oh, that's nice.
So, my question is: so we all can agree that America's not a perfect country, but there's no such thing as a perfect country. However, there are people who just flat out hate the United States. My question is: how do I respond to these America haters without saying, just leave it if you hate it so much?
Without saying what?
Without saying, oh, if you don't like it, then just go away. Like, how else would I respond to that?
It's a very tough question. The moral idiocy, I'm sorry to use such a strong term, of hating America is actually on a level analogous to anti-Semitism. What do you say to somebody who hates Jews? Do you try to talk them out of it? Do you ask them if they got inoculated against polio because it was a Jew who created the Salk vaccine? And, if the Jews are so bad, why would they take a vaccine invented by one? I wrote a book many years ago called Why the Jews, the Reason for Anti-Semitism with Rabbi Joseph Telushkin. And we, in the third edition, there's actually a big chapter on anti-Americanism because they're analogous. It's a hatred of something that stands for something better and actually has achieved something better. There's no country that has liberated people from tyranny like America. There's no country that has given more people from more countries more opportunities than America. It's been a force for good more than any other place on earth that I could think of. So there's something sick in the soul of somebody who hates America, as there's something sick in the soul of someone who hates Jews. Jews are highly imperfect. America is highly imperfect, but I'm highly imperfect, and you're highly imperfect. Since a country is composed of people, all of whom are imperfect, it's going to be an imperfect place. But it's like capitalism. I ask people, name the one ism that has raised billions of people from poverty. And there's only one ism that has. It's called capitalism, with all its flaws. And there's almost no answer, at least, in other words, reason will not undo the sickness of their soul. But we have to make the case to the great number of people who are open to hearing argument. And that's the reason I do all my work. I don't expect to change the America hater or the Jew hater, but I hope to change those who think that the America hater or Israel hater may be right. That's the group that you have to talk to. the guy, it's like somebody just wrote me a letter, a listener to my show. What do I tell my son who's off to college when he hears about white privilege? So, I told him in a nutshell that the greatest privilege by far in America is two-parent privilege. If you're a black with two parents, you're going to do better than most whites without two parents. White males commit suicide at a greater rate than any other group in America. I guess they didn't get the message that they have privilege. They make up these things that are based on nothing, just nothing. So I hope that helps.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jody, and
Hi, Jody.
I'm not able to make it to the debate, but I'm a huge fan of Prager, so I'm really happy to ask you a question, which is, if you could pick any person to become president, who would it be and why?
Oh, you mean if I could pick and they didn't have to run?
Yes. Free ride.
Me.
That's a great answer.
But unfortunately, you have to run. If I have others too, I would happily pick my good friend Larry Elder. If you don't know him, you should. He's a brilliant black commentator and talk show host and writer. I mean, there are a lot of people I would pick, but unfortunately, we don't. Well, I guess fortunately, we don't pick presidents in America. We vote for them.
Well,
By the way, you said you didn't attend the debate. Did you happen to see it on YouTube?
I have not yet.
Yeah, you might want to. It might be instructive on how to debate folks on the other side. Incidentally, you should all know YouTube has placed 42 PragerU videos on the restricted list.
I know.
Pornographic content. And I learned just last week, this is fascinating. YouTube has placed that debate, the video of that debate, on its restricted list. That's proof. I mean, anyone who was there, it was pretty free of pornography and violence. Is that fair to say? Now, that's proof that YouTube censors whatever is offensive to the left. Because I defeated a man of the left, they don't want people to see it. That's the living proof of the ideological totalitarianism that permeates our society, whether it's the university, the high school, or YouTube, or what have you. That's really the perfect proof. A debate has been put on the restricted list because the leftists were lost. Believe me, if I lost, it wouldn't be on the restricted list.
How's the lawsuit?
There's no. Finally, they did respond. I didn't find the response terribly persuasive, but obviously, if I thought they had a persuasive response, we wouldn't have sued. There's no way to know how it is until it goes before a judge. But I feel that we're morally obligated to, even if we lose, we're morally obligated to do this, to let people know wherever, there is no exception to this, wherever the left is in charge, freedom declines. Not liberals, left. I have no problem with liberals. And you should all know there's a big difference between liberal and left. In fact, I'm probably closer to liberals than I am to any other group. But if you're not on the left, it doesn't matter whether you're liberal or conservative. So it's very important to know that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If I could ask a question going off of what you were talking about, the censorship of videos. And you spent a lot of time and effort in the internet space. With all these different channels like Facebook, YouTube, whatever you name it, being controlled by the left and a lot of censorship is there, where do you draw the line between education and being a keyboard warrior and it not being relevant?
It's not. Well, do you mean what work works and what is irrelevant? Is that what you're asking?
Like, how much effort should activists, for example, that want to spread truth about Israel, spend their time and efforts on the internet persuading their friends?
Oh, I think it's critical. We spend most of our marketing money at PragerU on the internet. That's why we got 600 million views last year. That's a lot of views. And, every one of you, if you can write a coherent argument and put it on your Facebook page, you've done a lot of good. So, in fact, it's important for me to make this point to you. The vast majority of good done in this world is done one by one by one, not in great numbers. It's easy to do bad in great numbers. It's very hard to do good in great numbers. So if don't get frustrated. If you have changed one mind, you have done an enormous good in this world. So please think of it that way. If it's a cousin or if it's just a friend on Facebook, this is very important that you do, that you put up good videos, that you put up good articles, that you learn the arguments. So please, you folks have to understand that. Don't get frustrated. Okay? We could all be frustrated, I could be more frustrated than any of you. 600 million views, and we're still being restricted by YouTube. Everybody doing good gets frustrated, but you can't allow that to determine your behavior.
Thank you.
Right.
Hi, I'm Elon. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I've never seen one of your speeches before, but I find your work very fascinating. So my question is, how do you suggest going about fighting anti-Semitism and anti-Israel argument when people at your school don't care about facts or evidence?
When people don't care about facts or evidence, as I said before, there isn't much you can do. I admit it. But if you could learn, there's still effective rhetoric, even for the person for whom evidence is not powerful. For example, when I get calls on my radio show, Dennis, Israel was founded, on violence. So I say to them two things. I say, okay, let me take just that argument. Israel was founded on violence against Palestinians. All right. So number one, can the person name any country in the world that had no violence in its founding? Okay, it doesn't exist. Number two, who started the violence? Who attacked who in 1948? Does the person, well, again, unfortunately, I'm back to evidence and facts. I admit it, I'm guilty. But number three, you should all read my piece, because I write a weekly column and a half for a year, for decades. So you could easily Google it. It's just do Dennis Prager or Prager and Israel and Pakistan, or Israel and Pakistan's founding. No one assumes there were more than 600,000 Palestinian refugees. By the way, there were 600,000 Jewish refugees from Arab countries. So it was sort of a population swap, which happens all the time. But when Pakistan was created, it was ripped out of India. There was never a Pakistan in history. There were two Israels in history. But there were two Jewish states prior to Israel. This is the third Jewish state. There was no Muslim state called Pakistan. It was made up in 1947, exactly about the time Israel was. But millions were killed. Millions were rendered refugees. Why is Pakistan legitimate? So I asked my caller, did you ever call a radio station and say Pakistan was illegitimate? Why out of the 220 countries in the world is only the Jewish state, the size of New Jersey, not legitimate? That's a very powerful question to ask people. There are 220 countries. Why did you pick on the only one that's Jewish to say it's illegitimate? Do I have a right to just have a suspicion that you're anti-Jewish?
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I was at your debate. It was amazing. You did an amazing job. The other dude totally lost. And I just want you to, like, if you can re-explain what the difference is between liberals and the left.
Yes, I actually, again, you can get, it's an article I wrote, Prager, just do Prager, liberals and leftists. And it's very worth reading it. It's only a few hundred words, 700 words or so. But here is the best example. The liberal position is to be race blind, that race doesn't matter, character matters, goodness matters, conscience matters, intelligence matters, but not color. That's the liberal position. The leftist position is race does matter. They're opposite. They're literally opposite. That's why most colleges now, being run by leftists, have black dormitories. That's called segregation. The liberal position is completely opposed to racial segregation. The leftist position is pro-racial segregation. Just that alone is worth asking or telling anybody who wonders, gee, what's the difference between a liberal and a leftist? Race is a great example. Another example is liberals thought America was the greatest country in the world. Leftists think America is a crappy country. So I have a whole list, but the race is really powerful. Okay, is that clear?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great.
Hello, Dennis. My name's Boris. I wasn't able to make your debate, but I've watched a lot of your debates online. So my question is what's the best way to respond to someone who says Trump is sexist or racist once they've really run out of other arguments?
Well, let's begin with sexist. So what renders him a sexist? So I would like, the person needs to define it. Because of the groping comment that he made that in private. So let me tell you something you'll find interesting. Hillary Clinton it is known, it's easily found anywhere. She called the Jewish campaign chairman of her husband's early congressional campaign. She called him a bunch of expletives along with Jew. It was clearly anti-Semitic statements. I'm sorry? Effing Jew bastard. My cousin, AKA my wife. And so I wrote a piece in the Wall Street Journal in the 1990s saying, as a Jew, as an author of a book on anti-Semitism, as one who has fought anti-Semitism my whole life, I assert Hillary Clinton is not an anti-Semite. You cannot judge people by private comments. Harry Truman was the president who recognized Israel. He went against the entire State Department in doing that. The first leader to recognize Israel when it was announced as a state. He used the word kike, which is like the N-word for Jews, regularly. But he turned out to be the Jews' best friend. Richard Nixon made anti-Jewish comments privately. He saved Israel's life in the Yom Kippur War in 1973. I don't care what people say privately. I only care what people say publicly and what they do. If every one of you were measured, if there was a recording of everything you have ever said privately, you would all be awful. So would I. I have cursed out every driver of every ethnicity who is driven slowly in the left lane that I have ever encountered. But I know I don't have a bigoted bone in my body. I just can't stand slow drivers, and I curse out whatever group they're in. If they're an Orthodox Jew, I curse them out. It doesn't matter. So we're living in an age with no wisdom, a lot of knowledge and no wisdom. Wisdom is what people say privately is none of the rest of the world's business. They emote, they say things. Donald Trump's comment was on a tape or on some recording. He had no idea anybody was listening. It was stupid comments, and they were meaningless. They were truly meaningless. By the way, he never said he did it. He said, if you're rich and famous and powerful, women let you, which is interesting. He didn't say, I do it. The dishonesty even about that comment is remarkable. But in any event, I would like them to show me, you show them, for example, these people who say sexist. The Washington Post reported during the campaign, and the Post hates Trump, that he elevated women to positions of power in the real estate industry more than any other major real estate figure. Okay, just for the record. So I don't know, I have no basis whatsoever for the sexist charge. And I've already dealt, private comments don't count. Hello, it doesn't count. All right? As for racist, everyone, the left thinks every white is a racist. They have already yelled, they've already yelled fire in a crowded auditorium on this. They've already cried wolf. The president said in Warsaw that we have to protect Western civilization. And do you know what the New York Times and the whole left said? That was a dog whistle to white supremacy. Just saying that we should protect Western civilization is now considered white supremacist thought on the left. So they have no credibility when they make that charge. If you're against the black dorm, you're a racist. The new University of California said that if you say there's only one race, the human race, you're a racist. Did you get that? That's called, look it up, University of California microaggressions. One of them is, there is only one race, the human race. That is considered racist. So they don't have credibility on these matters.
Thank you, Dennis.
Hello, my name is Zizan, and I was fortunately able to...
Okay, I can't hear you at all. There's something happening there.
Come closer.
The closest.
Okay. My name is Ilan, and I was fortunately able to meet you at the debate. How should I respond to the idea that Islam is a religion of peace in history class?
How should you respond to the idea that Islam is a religion of peace and what?
In history class.
Right. You know, I debated the head of one of the largest American Muslim groups, the Muslim Public Affairs Committee, at what was the name of the school, Sue? Claremont Graduate University in Southern California. The present were a number of Muslims, women wearing hair covering and so on. And I said about 2 or 3 times, Islam is not a religion of peace. It just has not been a religion. That's factually accurate. This man did not call me an Islamophobe. The Muslims in the audience didn't boo me. They may disagree with me, but it's not a bigoted position. It's either factual or not factual. How did North Africa get Muslim within 1 generation of Muhammad's living? In 1 generation, the entire North Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, Egypt, did I miss one? Yeah, Libya. All of the people there became Muslim. What is it? They all saw the truth overnight? No, they were told, you either convert or you get killed. Islam has been, in fact, you should, My book called Still the Best Hope is about the left, Islam, and America. And in the Islamic chapters, I show how the greatest Muslim thinkers boasted that Islam will kill non-believers, like Ibn Khaldun, the greatest Arab writer who ever lived in the Middle Ages. It has never been a religion of peace. There are peaceful Muslims. That's a fact. But it is not a religion of peace, and Islam doesn't mean peace. That's dishonest. Islam means submit. It's in the command form in the Arabic of the verb to submit. That's the truth. But again, truth doesn't matter on the left. Ideology matters, but you still have to say it calmly that this has nothing to do with all Muslims, but as a religion, it has not been a religion of peace. That's just the truth.
Thank you.
Dennis, yesterday we had a panel discussion with all of our keynote speakers, and they talked about two things. The first thing they spoke about was their worst summer job, and the second thing they spoke about was why it's important to be a Zionist. So could you briefly touch upon those two?
My worst summer job?
Yeah.
I had a worst winter job. Does that count?
Sure.
Shoveling snow. I grew up in New York, and I for $8, which was a fortune at the time, I shoveled the entire driveway of my neighbor, who was a good deal wealthier than my family, and I think I permanently damaged my back. Unless you've done that work, you have no idea how heavy snow is. It's deceptively heavy. So, but other than that, I loved I was a waiter at summer camp, and I loved it. I did not have any crummy jobs. I had a humiliating job though. On a number of occasions, for extra money, I'm 6'4", and I was 6'4" in high school. So among Jews, I'm sort of a giant, and which is the only reason I made my yeshiva basketball team. I was actually a pathetic player, but I was so tall because I wasn't crippled. They put me on the team, and I held the lights for the photographer at a bar mitzvah. A job that literally could have gone not just to a robot, but to a statue. So that was, but it was legitimate money, and what did I care? As for why am I a Zionist? Because the Jewish people is a people, it's not just a religion, and the Jewish people has a homeland, just like the French people and the Uruguayan people, and they have a right to a homeland. The only independent states that have ever existed there have been Jewish. There was never an independent or sovereign Arab state or Muslim state or any other. It's the only one that ever existed, and this is the third reincarnation or incarnation of a Jewish state in that area. Jews aren't asking for much. There are 53 Muslim majority states. There are 22 Arab states. The Jews just want one that's the size, as I said earlier, of New Jersey. Israel is smaller than El Salvador, and it has elicited more contempt than any other country on earth. It shows you the power of Jews in the minds of the world. So, and I'm a Zionist because if Jews get in trouble, like in the Holocaust, had there been in Israel, there's a good chance there wouldn't have been a Holocaust. I want to prevent it from happening again. A Jew who's anti-Zionist is an unhealthy dude. It's so obviously necessary for the welfare of the Jewish people. I'll tell you theologically, the Holocaust was such a trauma for the Jewish people that I'm not sure that we would have as many Jews who identify as Jews if Israel didn't exist. I don't believe that the Holocaust made Israel possible, but I believe that Israel made Jewish faith possible after the Holocaust.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Sam, and my question is, where do you see the future of the conservative movement and Republican Party in general, like path towards more freedom post-Trump?
I never make predictions. I believe that I have only one concern. What do I have to do to try and make a good future? But it's impossible to predict the future. I was sure Donald Trump would lose. So much for my predictive ability. I can only tell you we have to fight for what are better and kinder and finer values. And then you let the chips fall where they may. The rest is in God's hands. I'm both pessimistic and optimistic. If you really just want me to address the future, there are reasons for both. If you look at the university, and the high school and the elementary school. I mean, in elementary schools, teachers are told now not to call their students boys and girls, lest they impose a gender identity on the students. That's truly sick. I mean, that's pathological. I think it's a form of child abuse. That's how bad things have gotten because of the left and its nihilism. But on the other hand, I spoke in last month in West Palm Beach, Florida. Thanks to Turning Point USA, with whom PragerU works, I spoke to 2,500 conservative college students. That's a lot of people. That's not a minion. That's the real deal, man. So it seems lonely at your schools and on campuses, but there are more of you than you think. The problem is people are afraid to speak up because the left will bat you down. I mean, they call us SIXHERB, sexist, intolerant, xenophobic, homophobic, Islamophobic, racist, bigoted. We don't have names for them. The only name I have for the left is wrong. So SIXHERB is a lot more intimidating than wrong. So a lot of conservatives are afraid to speak out in Hollywood and on campuses, but you exist like you do. So there's real hope, but they're doing whatever they can to undo the last election and to retake the House and Senate this what year are we in? 2018? Yeah, this year. And I'm not worried. I'm concerned, but I'm optimistic that the Republicans will retain it, not because I'm a Republican fan, but because the Democrats have ceased to be a liberal party. They're now the party of the left, and the left does a lot of damage. Just on judges alone, people should vote for the Republicans. So you just got to keep fighting. How many of you speak Hebrew? Any of you speak Hebrew? Okay, well, there's a very famous statement, Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor ve'incha ben chorin lehibatel minha. It's not up to you to finish the task. Rabbi Tarfon said this in the Talmud about 1,800 years ago. It's not up to you to finish the task, but you're not free to desist from trying. Nobody completes the task till the Mashiach comes. So you just got to fight.
Dennis, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate and value having you here via telepresence. If you could just close up by talking about why you think it's important for young students, high school and college age, to be involved with Zionism and activism, especially today.
Well, I am about to come out with the cliche of the year. It was said to me when I was your age, and you will say it to kids when you're my age. It's a fact. It's not a compliment. It's just a fact. You're the future. If the Jewish people and Israel are to have a secure future, it's in your hands. It's as simple as that. And it's worth fighting for. It's quite sad that the left has had such an impact on Jewish youth, and for that matter, their parents, that support for Israel is considered almost just wrong, just immoral. I support Israel when the prime minister is on the left, just as much as I support Israel when the prime minister is on the right. It is up to Israelis who they elect. I began my comments at the debate up there in San Francisco with this statement. I always had the position, it is not up to me to tell Israelis who to vote for. If I want to comment and affect Israeli elections, I'll make Aliyah. But as an American Jew, I have one task, to help keep Israel strong. And why Jews have the hubris, the audacity, the chutzpah, to tell Israelis what's better for them, I mean, that just blows my mind. Israel is a democracy. Let them vote for who they want. And if they vote in Labor tomorrow, I will be just as Zionist, just as pro-Israel as I am if Likud is in power. If I want to make Aliyah, I'll make my ideas known. In the meantime, I have a bigger task, and that is to keep the only Jewish state in the world secure. Okay?
Mr. Prager, thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully next year we'll see you at the Club Z conference in Silicon Valley.
Sounds great to me.
All right, have a good night. Woo! Thank you. Sorry I threw it at you. Feel this right here. This fan I've been sitting next to. Oh, terrible. You're about to like pass out.
I was going to say this, I got called by his calling, which I did anything, not just this.